I know this comes up a lot in some of our meetings. Expand on affordable housing.
Yeah.
You know, like definition. You know, what's affordable to you might not be for me.
Correct. The state has tried to standardize that. So there's two tests. The first test of sort of affordability for anybody at any income level is, do you pay more than 30% of your income for housing? And if you do, then it's considered to be unaffordable. You are stretching yourself. So if I earn $1 million a year and I spend $300,000 a year or $301,000 a year, they're going to say, well, your housing's unaffordable. It doesn't really affect me, right? But where we really get concerned about housing affordability is for people like the median income or below. So the state has devised this other statistic, which is really the quote affordable housing that most people are referring to. And what that means is for people who earn 80% or less of the area median income. Now you're considered to be challenged a little bit in terms of income. So if you're paying more than 30% of your income, at that point in time it's considered to be a significant burden. So the state counts percentage of housing in the community as meeting the requirement for affordable housing. If it's either government assisted means that it is either financed by a CHFA or HUD program, or if it's tenant rental assistance, or whether it's deed restricted. And so Bristol, it's 13.45% of the housing stock in Bristol is either governmentally assisted or deed restricted to be available to people earning 80% of the area median income. So Bristol's exempt from the affordable housing appeals procedure, and many towns in the state are not, because they don't have that level of diversity in their housing stock. And as a result, they can deal with some very interesting land use situations that Bristol doesn't have.
Mike, could you just touch briefly on the affordable housing appeals and just very briefly, just so, because I know it's not something that the city encounters, but just...
So if Bristol did not have 10% of its housing stock meeting the affordability criteria, a developer could come in and on any piece of property in town propose affordable housing on it and would not have to comply with the city zoning regulations. They could propose what they wanted, where they wanted, and it's a whole new application process, because normally in a land use decision, the commission has the benefit of the doubt, and if there's an appeal, the other party bears the burden of proof to explain why the commission acted wrong. In affordable housing, the tables are turned. So if the commission is going to deny an affordable housing application, the burden's on them to prove why it wasn't appropriate. So you can understand if the courts are going to tell the commission that they didn't like what you did, how that could make you feel. And so this is why this affordable housing appeals procedure is a controversial issue around the state and many towns, because the state gets to kind of call the shots. So having more than 10% is a benefit for Bristol in that regard.
Okay, hold on one second. I didn't see your hand, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I appreciate you letting me interject. Are you familiar with the housing report, the final draft from the CCRPA, where it addresses transportation and in terms of housing affordability? There's apparently the state is looking differently at the scale of affordability if you include transportation costs coupled together with housing. There's a different ratio there. So they examine New Britain. I tried to find the exact number because I know the number is considerably different than the 30% when you factor in the transportation.
Yeah,
I just couldn't flip.
No, I'll
find it before the meeting's over. I know it's in my hand.
And I'll go look at that report because I want to make sure that that is important information. After housing, which is typically the #1 expense of a household, transportation is not far behind.
It's all relative to transit-oriented development.
Which I think to some extent what Sean's observation speaks to, and maybe you can explain to the commission. When the state, or when they talk about affordable housing as being no more than 30% of your income going towards housing, what costs does that include? It's not just simply your mortgage payment.
It doesn't include an allowance for utilities. The calculation actually gets pretty convoluted, but it is some basic utilities, water, electricity. It doesn't include things like cable TV, et cetera. So it's really intended to be a good cross-section of housing and the housing choices that are available to people. So the calculations are different based on mortgages versus rental, because mortgage also has to factor in the property taxes. So
The things that are directly related to the house that you can't avoid without considering the rest of your life. So you, transportation, I don't know, that hasn't been in there. Everybody has transportation, but then everybody pays for food too. So.
I have the figure, actually it says, it cites the Center for Neighborhood Technology, Housing and Transportation Affordability Index, which combines housing and transportation costs. The index sets 45% of household income as the upper limit for affordability.
You said that was the upper limit though, right?
Correct.
45%?
The upper limit, yeah.
So I will take a look at the report that Sean's talking about here, because I think the issue of affordability is something for us to factor into the plan, and I think there sounds like there's some good data in there to include.